welcome to the Snap UK podcast / Skype show.
Hello.
It's been 2 months since we've done this, and I can't remember how it goes, so we're going to wing it and see what happens. Don't worry, Paul hasn't died from coronavirus. He's just not allowed out to play this evening because he's very busy and has a child and a wife to look after. So, hi, Paul. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, Paul.
Hello, everyone.
Miss you.
Pleased that you're listening and joining us. We're going to dive straight in because there's actually quite a lot of things to cover, even though there's been no sport. So, first of all, the serious stuff. Let's get it out of the way before we all start making jokes about all the signings and things that are going to happen in the NFL. Gentlemen, thoughts on Black Lives Matters, the horrible death of George Floyd, and all the other things that have been going on while we've been away? Because I think it's important that we cover this topic. So, where would you like to start with this?
Should we start with how the NFL have covered it? Because I think
yes. Should we take it back all the way back to Colin Kaepernick?
I was going to say, you could say that Colin Kaepernick was a bit ahead of his time, really, because this all started for the NFL. This all started in 2016 when he initially sat and then knelt during the anthem. It all kicked off. Owners got upset. The NFL got upset. Donald Trump got upset. It was a whole hullabaloo that stretched into the London games where we were wondering who's going to be kneeling then and should we kneel during the anthem as well. And it died down a bit with kind of the NFL sort of outlawing it, but not. And then they're coming to an agreement with various players that we're gonna commit to funding social injustice programs with you, and then it all kind of went away for a long time. Obviously, Kaepernick had his grievance against the NFL, and that all got settled, and we didn't hear much more of it until the unfortunate incidents in Minneapolis involving George Floyd, which just kicked everything off. And now it's we've seen it spread on a global basis. We're seeing protests in London, protests in the rest of Europe, now in Asia as well. This week, the Premier League starting, all the Premier League players are kneeling. And once again, Donald Trump is upset. He said he's not going to watch the NFL if any players kneel, and the NFL will be too bothered about that.
Oh, why would they be? Who wants to be associated with Donald Trump these days? Anyone?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Drew Brees.
Let's cover that for a second. Then Drew Brees' reaction to BLM and the kneeling and all the other parts of the protest. Drew Brees' comments were definitely taken out of context, and they looked bad out of context.
Yeah.
But
I don't think they were taken out of context. He made those comments only a few days before that happened, and they were his beliefs. What they were was Drew Brees has a very poor understanding of what was being done and why, and he was associating it with something completely different. And he was making that in his own mind, that decision around what other people were doing and why. And Drew Brees got it completely wrong. And that's why he backtracked faster than I've seen him move in at least 5 years.
Yeah, and that was the right thing to do. So, and in that circumstance, if you are found to have been wanting, for a lack of a better word, for the education of the situation, all you can do is retract and apologise.
Well, Alvin Kamara said, like, the black players in the dressing room went to him and told him why they were upset with what he said, and it's going to come up again and again. It's the education of it, isn't it? That's what it is. And Drew Brees has other controversial opinions on other matters, which we could go into, but let's stick to the theme. But yeah, he has backtracked. He's not the only one.
But I think that's the thing. I think you look, as four white guys sat on a podcast, we're not qualified to really speak about this at all. We're giving our opinions. But at the same time, I think we all understand that there is systemic racism throughout the Western world. It does happen. And I think understanding that from a white person's view and understanding the fact that just because of the colour of skin, we have a privilege which we really don't know about, but it's there. That's a first step towards kind of trying to get to at least a level playing field between black and whites. And people have got to be given the opportunity to change their minds and not be classed as a hypocrite for kind of changing their minds.
Yeah.
we're taught in schools about kind of British history and on a very positive note about the kind of the British Empire and the role the British Empire had around the globe, and we covered 3/4 of the globe, and isn't it great, and wasn't this a great nation? But what's never covered is how we got there, and it's off the back of slavery, quite frankly. It's quite appalling when you go back and actually look at it. But
from the Nazis before the Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. We're not taught that. So, it is education. It comes down to how history is taught. It needs to be taught on a level playing field, and absolutely, it needs to be. There needs to be every point of view that's taught from that. We can remember history. It doesn't mean we have to celebrate it, but we can certainly remember it.
Yeah, I think that's the really important thing. Is I think that balance between making sure we don't celebrate what we now regard as wrong, that was seen as right at the time, because we don't persecute every German going forward for the rest of eternity, do we? Because we understand that it was a different generation, it was a different time, but we understand what happened and we learn from it, and that's why I've been to a concentration camp in Prague, and on the outskirts of Prague, and I've been and seen it, and the reason why these things still stand is so that we can go and learn from them to and ensure they don't happen again. That is why they leave things like those kind of places still stand. That's why they're not all bulldozed, so it's really important, I think, that we do learn, and I think keep the conversation going. I think that's the most important thing. I listened to a radio show the other day on my new very long journey, and it was talking to a guy from America who was a musician who actually has spent time with with the Klan, changing, just building relationships with people, and actually not converting people, but people have left the Klan just through forming a friendship with this one black man. Hundreds of people have left, and it was just really interesting to hear him talk about he decided that it was part of his responsibility to change the society he lived in, and part of that was to drive change through just trying to make connections with people. That was it. And it was a really powerful interview, but I think that is the key. You have to keep the conversation going and learn from the past.
The Patrick Mahomes and the other black players released a quite powerful video as well, and of course the NFL then released a statement that basically went, "We were wrong," So hopefully it's not just chatter. Hopefully it's the start of them actually doing more than lip service to this.
I think
although not being funny, Roger Goodell got it so wrong as well, and there's been very little comeback so far. It'll be interesting to see how this continues and plays out as the NFL returns, because the way that Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reid were treated by the league was disgraceful. There's got to be some kind of retribution at some point for that.
I think one of the things I'm waiting for, and to your point, John, I think it was really important that some of those top stars got involved in this. It wasn't, and Colin Kaepernick was a big star, but at that point he probably wasn't. He was on his way out, and Eric Reid's a safety. They never get the publicity. But we've seen the NFL respond. We've seen the NFL players come out and make a very strong statement, and most of the players, Drew Brees aside, seem to be behind the movement, which is great. And there's a lot of white quarterbacks that have also come out and said and been behind it, and the quarterback is the leader of the team. I'm speaking. And we've even seen coaches and some GM kind of talk about this in a very positive manner, that they're getting behind it. There's a really powerful statement from the Colts GM, Chris Ballard, a couple of weeks back. What we haven't seen yet is any of the owners kind of front up, apart from kind of Jed York of the 49ers. We haven't seen kind of Jerry Jones speak. We haven't seen Robert Kraft speak, or anyone really. And that, I think, that kind of worries me a little bit, that at the end of the day, the owners kind of are the power behind the NFL, above and beyond Roger Goodell. So I really want to see them come out and actually make a statement and say, look, we're going to back our players. You remember kind of when the Texans, the arguments between the ownership there, McNair and DeAndre Hopkins, which never really sorted itself out. I think the NFL needs to see the owners come up, on the whole, kind of 30-odd very rich old white guys come up and say, we're going to back the players as well. We're in this with you. I want to see Jerry Jones kind of come out and say, yeah, this is wrong. We're going to help do this. Because, we talk about the Rooney Rule. Well, hiring actually comes to hiring of coaches and GMs and kind of senior personnel staff comes down to the owners. So, yeah, you can have all the rules you want in place, but the owners need to accept that, times are changing. They need to help create a level playing field and give minorities that opportunity to kind of make that step up.
Do you not think, though, the reason you've not really heard anything is because when you've got that much money and that much power, you don't care what anyone else thinks. You can change the Rooney Rule all you like, but until Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, and 27 of the others actually have to move on, you're going to get this is why equality is limited in pace, because once people are entrenched and have power and money, they don't have to change their opinion. And we can have the conversation every day, but people at grassroots can, but you can't ultimately change people at the top until it's their time to move on.
Yeah, but the thing is, especially when it comes to the NFL, even if they do move on, they're only going to leave their club to their son, their daughter, or whoever it was. So it's never going to be they're never going to make an equal playing. I'm not saying they should suddenly give up and let
What I'm getting is Stephen Jones is of a far different generation to Jerry Jones. So when Stephen Jones takes over, you would expect a shift in momentum or a change in position.
Yeah, but there's no reason why that can't happen now. We're not asking them to sell the club. All I'm saying is come out, make a statement. 70% of your playing staff are black.
Yeah,
you don't have a team without black players in the NFL, quite frankly. So come out, back them, be someone that people look up to, that genuinely look up to, and that players can kind of get along with and speak to. And they have got the power to do it.
This is. Do you remember 2 or 3 years ago we were discussing whether or not players have to accept that they are role models, whether they like it or not?
Yep.
And now it's moved up to the owners. The owners are setting a precedent whether they like it or not. The thing is, they don't care. They do not care, because most of them don't need that. They will make money from something else if it's not the NFL, so they don't care. And that apathy prevents progress.
I think if it hits the balance sheets, I think they'll care.
But just because the majority of the playing staff are black, which they are, the majority of the fans that pay the money to go are white.
But is that just because they can afford the tickets? I mean, let's not be...
Quite possibly. I'm just telling you what the stats tell us. Is 70% of the players are black, but 85% of the fans that go are white.
And it's not just generational, because we've had 2 new players in the draft this year. The kicker for the Patriots, Wasser. What he got? He had a 3% tattoo, which is a really bright ring, which he has. I think he's having removed, or
he's had it covered up. Yeah.
But he's still got that.
And then there's
with them.
And
Jake Fromm,
well?
Jake Fromm, the new Bills quarterback, sent his texts were unveiled, which said he wanted to
How
guns.
How do NFL teams not know this in advance and not think, right, we're sticking clear of that? They must know. You can't miss a tattoo. And if some guy can release text from years ago surely they must know that he holds certain opinions that maybe don't fit in. And also, I will point out, he's 21 or 22. So if you release text messages I sent to John 5 years ago,
no, please don't.
But I'm making the point that people's opinions change, or they are taken out of the context of the conversation, or whatever it is. And whilst it might not be right, when that gets dumped on the world, it's not how you judge someone.
I think it's also difficult for us to comment properly on American culture and how beliefs are held. So we know from what we learn around America. I've been to certain parts of America, but America's a very big place, and it does have very deep set beliefs in different places, and their cultural change will be different to cultural change across the world. And, it's difficult for us to commentate on that properly because we don't really understand it. We could get Duncan on to talk to us about it a little bit more, but, realistically, it's around how we educate ourselves about America, really, isn't it? But we don't we don't really truly understand all of it. If we're
Can I ask then, where is it acceptable to draw the line of change and progress? So we've all seen that at the NASCAR and various other sporting events, they've now banned the Confederate flag, even though it was never the actual flag. That symbol is banned, and you cannot. And people have been driving around the outside of the stadium, flying it out of their pickups because they're idiots, right? So that's banned. We've had statues of NFL team owners. The guy at the Redskins removed because he refused to integrate his team. Where do you have to draw the line? A bit like you were saying with the camps. Concentration camps are there for a reason, to educate people. Where do you draw the line with symbols from the past? Because they're now talking about, in America, changing the names of loads of different buildings and bases and things like this because they are representative of things from the 1860s.
I think if things have been named after things in celebration, that's one thing. Isn't it?
I think
that has to change, doesn't it? So
I think that's
you can't celebrate stuff.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
You can't have things
like that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
We have in this country, we've had like lots of comedies taken down off of streaming services, and I don't think at any point a black person's been asked.
No,
sort of this
John Barnes
decision by middle class white men. And what needs to happen is people need to talk to black people and ask their opinion, and that is what's going to be the difference. Basically,
I think
at the moment they're not being asked, and we need to have they need to be part of the conversation. Then we have more approach to equality, and that will be the difference. At the moment, we're now in a phase of sort of like white guilt, and we need to get over that, and we just need to talk to them. We need to get their opinion. That's how we'll be educated, and that's when we'll have better decisions.
I think that's
you're asking for mass sensibility.
The point Gary made, you draw the line between celebration and remembering.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like there's no. When the Soviet Union crashed, they pulled in Russia. They pulled down the statues of Lenin and Stalin.
Well, one has just gone up in Germany for some Leninist communist type party.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm just letting you know that.
On the whole, there aren't that many statues of Lenin, Stalin, or Hitler, or Pol Pot, or whatever else, other dictators. Equally, there are no statues, commemorating, rats during the Black Plague. Doesn't mean we forget about the Black Plague.
No.
We don't forget about fascism and communism in the world that kind of had their horrible, terrible wrongs, but we don't celebrate it. And we don't kind of say, hey, wasn't this great? And we put up a statue. No, there's going to be statues which are going to be controversial. Like Churchill is a controversial figure. In Britain, he is revered, rightly so. He pretty much led us during World War II and was a massive factor in winning World War II. But if you speak to people in India, or you speak to people in the Channel Islands even, they can't stand Churchill. Oliver Cromwell's another one. The Irish hate Cromwell. We revere him. So there has to be a balance there. And it has to be, respectful, but also, to kind of John's point, other minorities and black people should be consulted. And let's actually listen to them and not just pay lip service of consulting with them.
Do-gooder white people are the worst.
They're terrible.
Right. Moving on, because as much as we need to have the conversation, it breaks you a little bit inside. Let's talk about some news and things that have happened while in the 2 months, basically, while we've been away. I'll throw something out, then you guys feel free to join in. So, teams are talking about signing Antonio Brown. What's going on there? The Seahawks and the Ravens have both apparently had discussions about signing him. Is this more folly? Will he actually make it back? Really? Anyone?
Someone will take a punt. You took a punt on Josh Gordon. He's re-registered as well, by the way.
Yeah. But Josh Gordon has a drug dependency issue, whereas Antonio Brown is just bonkers.
Just has issues.
So, which one would you rather take a punt on tomorrow?
Well, which one's got more upside?
Well, I'd say they're similar. Josh
Gordon did it for one season.
If I got to pick one tomorrow, I'd take Josh Gordon because I think Antonio Brown's just.
I'd take Brown.
He's just press coverage.
I wouldn't take either. But
No, I'll be honest, I wouldn't take either. If either of those rocked up at the 49ers, I'd be pretty angry.
Well, they might do because Debo's broken his foot and he's going to miss the first 6 games of the season.
It's not going to happen.
Well, you might need somebody. What's your wide receiver cupboard like at the moment?
We've got Brandon Ayuk.
Excellent.
We've got Kendrick Bourne, we've got Richie James, we've got George Kittle, who's a tight end, but he's a pretty decent receiving option.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. And what's the Trent? Trent, what's his face? Gary, help me out here.
Well, you're asking me to talk about 49ers wide receivers. I gave you all I'm giving you.
Yeah.
After
Taylor
got rid of all the big characters in the first year, they're hardly going to go, well, now we're on the precipice of something amazing. Let's bring in dickheads.
Yeah. That's exactly the point. And right, you've got to be a special kind of coach. And I think actually Pete Carroll's probably one of the few coaches in the league who could handle someone like Antonio Brown.
But why would you take the risk?
I wouldn't. That's
because he's in a very difficult division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 teams in win now, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
And have choked when it matters in the last couple of years, and a Brown would help.
Well, when you consider that Seattle's best wide receiver addition so far in the offseason was Philip Dorsett, I suppose they perhaps do.
Yeah, do they need another number 1 wide receiver? They've got DK Metcalf. They've got Tyler Lockett.
If Tyler Lockett's going to be fit for the year.
Yeah, I don't know.
DK Metcalf flattered to deceive a little bit because he started the season okay and then he just went off the boil.
Yeah, I think he can still be very, very good, but they may need someone.
He's basically
to
a
take
tight
the
end
off.
out wide, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, but I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Finally signing with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
This is the right move for everybody.
Oh, when did that happen?
Well, no, he signed the franchise tag, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
going to get paid $31.4 million. I think it's a good move for
He
him.
turned down $40 million a year, though, didn't he? Over $40 million a year.
Well,
Excuse me there, Michael.
None. That's not 40 million guaranteed, is it? And you look at the franchise tag this year, he's going to get 31.4 million guaranteed.
Yes.
If they do it again next year, that's you add on 20%, so that's 37 million. So that's like 69 million over 2 years, guaranteed. So the Cowboys, it's at what point how much money is it for Dak to not play year to year and take that risk? And I think the Cowboys are playing a bit of a dangerous game. If you've got, and this is Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, but he's never kind of lit the world alight, hasn't he? You've got Andy Dalton there, who isn't as good as Dak Prescott, but you could invest that 31 million and bring in Jadeveon Clowney and maybe a stronger cornerback into the team. Play with Andy Dalton with all those weapons around him and a really good offensive line. You could probably do something for that. So we'll see what happens. But
Jadeveon Clowney's going to be cheap, isn't he? They reckon nobody wants him.
Well, exactly. So like I said, if they could save themselves 31.4 million with that franchise tag. Bring in maybe another cornerback or a safety, and they've already got a championship-winning offense. I think boost the defense, and that's a really, really good team.
It's given Dak Prescott the cards to get the deal he wants, but also it is helping Dallas because they could have been paying Dak 40 million rather than 31. So if you do want to, Jamal Adams is now available.
Apparently.
If you do want to go for Jamal Adams, you now have 9 million that you can throw that way.
Yeah.
Do you not think though that Dak is only worth that sort of money to the Cowboys? He wouldn't get that anywhere else.
I don't know. I think that market's moved. You look at Goff, Garoppolo.
But just look at him. He's not a top.
Look at his stats.
7 or 8 producer.
Don't look at his deal. Look at the stats.
Didn't he have
what the agent is putting in front of him, saying, "Well, this all says I'm a top 10 quarterback, and I've been for the last 3 years."
And he had the second most passing yards last year, didn't he?
He's put up some numbers, but in terms of winning, basically this year is going to tell whether or not he's actually been held back by the coaching there, or whether he's reached his ceiling. And my concern is he's reached his ceiling anyway. It's not just the coaching.
Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's where the Cowboys are going. They're saying, right, we've got a new coach. we like you, Dak, but we want to make sure that you work with this new coach in a new scheme, and it works out well. Given everything that's going on, though, it doesn't bode well, does it? Because he, as good as Zoom or Skype calls are, you can't really have a decent meeting. They can't get out there and play with the new playbook and kind of really test it and see what happens. So he's not going to have the best of starts to what is quite a complicated new scheme.
At least with Dak, if you're a Cowboy, you're playing behind the best O-line in the league, and that is going to help your stats. If you plonk Dak at the Jets or Dolphins, but then that'd be the same for everyone. But yeah, it does help his stats that he is in Dallas.
Do you not think, though, that the worst thing that could happen this year is for Dak to get injured, miss a game, Andy Dalton comes in, throws 4 touchdowns, and they realise that for half the money they can have the same sort of player?
Well, that'd be the worst.
Dalton is more or less the same sort of player.
Yeah, that's
why he's there, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it's a big thing for Dak. If you don't have the security of a long-term contract there, and you're playing it's easy to get rid of you. And I think that's a gamble, because he can't honestly look at Andy Dalton and think, yeah, I'm 10 times better than Andy Dalton.
On the flip side, would the Cowboys fans accept that? Like, really? I mean, I completely agree with you. I think Andy Dalton could do a job there with that offensive line and all those weapons. But is the average Cowboy fan really going to be that excited about seeing Andy Dalton?
They'll be excited if they can win in the postseason, which Dak has not got near to doing either.
Neither Dalton, to be fair.
Yeah,
no,
that's difficult to do that when you're like only getting a 7-9 record every season.
Well, then we shall see what they achieve. I just think
they should absolutely rip up that division this year.
They should do, yeah.
Well, we'll see. I'm not sure they're going to do that. Anybody else got any other bits of news they would like to get
to? Trent Williams signed a restructured contract, didn't he, Jim?
He did, yeah. He's now 49 for at least another, I think, 3 years. Yeah. We're not allowed to franchise tag him. That's one of the rules in the contract. But good. He's one of the best. Well, when he was playing, he was one of the best left tackles, if not the best left tackle in the league. So Joe Staley retires. Straight replacement is Trent Williams, who's played in Shanahan's system before as well, so he should know it. So that's good. Someone mentioned it earlier. Jamal Williams has requested a trade from the Jets.
Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Williams on the brain. Jamal Adams. So probably one of the best safeties in the league. He wants out of New York. It's been rumoured for the last probably year and a half that he wants out from New York. And he's willing to go to 7 teams, and all 7 teams are contenders.
Yeah.
And all 7 teams would probably benefit from adding him, because he is that good.
The Niners. Yeah.
I was going to say, the Niners are one of them. He said he's happy to go to, and I'd be quite happy to take him there.
I suspect the price might be too high for a lot of those teams.
Earlier on in the season, they were talking about a first and 2 seconds, which for a safety is incredibly high.
And that's the problem.
Like, no one's giving him that.
No, it's going to take some serious cajoling to get anybody to give up that much. But
yeah, and you've got to give him a new contract as well, because he's only got a year left.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky.
We've got to get Kittle sorted first, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, see, Kittle is saying he wants a contract like a wide receiver as well. And that's going to be your next problem.
He's expected to sign the largest ever tight end
contract. He'll set the market for tight ends. Rightly so as well. He's the best tight end in football.
Right. Players returning from... I'm not talking about who's setting the market for tight ends. Players returning to training camps and things in amongst COVID-19. There's a lot of different opinions on how it needs to be done, which players feel safe and which ones don't. The McCourtney twins, I know, at the Patriots have come out and said they're sceptical of whether or not this can work. What do we think the chances of a full season, players not getting injured more than normal because they've had enough training? What do we think the chances of this going ahead normally are?
I think you might see that the fixtures are moved around a bit. Whether they'll be able to do the home and away schedule, I'm not too sure. But, listening to what's going on over in the States, I think you'll definitely see it being played. They've moved the NBA just to bloody Disneyland just to get it done.
Yeah, but a lot of players have said no to that as well. I really don't know. That's terrible.
Didn't Major League Baseball have 70 players test positive in the last 24 hours?
Yeah. Exactly.
And this is going to be the problem. You can
But-
have all the will in the world and move the fixtures around, but if you get to a week before the season starts and a shed load of players test positive, it shouldn't happen. We've been lucky with the Premier League. The Premier League comeback, despite the fact the games have been a bit naff, has actually gone okay in terms of COVID-19. What they had 7 tests.
But I think,
come
you
back
know,
positive.
as badly as this country's dealt with COVID-19, I think the US is worse.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not over what people class as the first wave yet. Yes, New York is, but they've got about 16 other states which are increasingly, or seeing increasingly.
Florida, for example.
Florida, Texas, California. Each of those states have got 3 teams in it.
Yeah.
So unless they really get a handle on it, and we're not that far away. You know, we're end of June now. We're talking about the beginning of September. That's 3 months away. Unless they get a real handle on it, I can't see how the league's going to. I can't see how it's going to start on time. Certainly, we're not going to see fans in stadiums. Just
Each team has 90 players for their squad.
And all the staff as well. It's like it's over 150 people in the team, probably more. So I don't understand how it's going to be done safely. But they'll probably still do it because American.
That is exactly it. I think we're sitting here thinking, oh yeah, this isn't it. I think they will just go,
yeah,
it's here, isn't it? Like, you know, the virus is here. Like, it's
get on with it.
Cold. Let's just get on with it. I think they'll be playing. Honestly, I think there might be certain states they're not playing in, but I think they'll be playing.
Texas
fans as well.
At Texas, they already have permission.
How many people
to go
went
to 50% of the stadium open?
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump's rally, I know that it got hijacked by some TikTok people. So, like, 20,000 people were missing. But there was still, like, 20,000 people in the stadium.
No, it was only 6,000, apparently.
Oh, it should have been 20. That's still of 6,000. So you're
6,000.
telling me that they're not going to be allowed to have fans in to watch the games? I think you're talking rubbish. They'll just give them disclaimers to sign, and then they'll make up some, like, story that anti-malaria drugs can help. They'll put a really bad advert on TV for those with some like really weird like guy with his own personal advert, and they'll just do a load of disclaimers. Of course they'll be playing. Of course they'll be fans.
I sadly think you might be right there, Gary. My head's telling me that like they should not do this, but you're right. It's America.
The TV money is too much for them to say, "No, we're not going to play this year." They're going to play.
Those really caring and moralistic owners you were just talking about. They're going to take a stand on COVID, are they? They won't take a stand on racism, but they're going to take a stand on COVID.
No, I don't think for a second they will. I'm just saying it's the numbers. It's in an NBA team. The squad is only 16 players, and then you've got 11 or 12 people on the coaching staff. That's far easier to manage than, like Jim says, 150 people on each team. And some of the states have said they will not repeal the stadium bans for fans. So, like LA, I think, have already said there'll be no sport here. So then that comes into confrontation, and this is what baseball's having a problem with the same thing. Everybody's confronting each other.
The Vegas mayor was trying to get people back in. She just didn't even care. Like, right at the start of it.
Yeah, I remember that. She was a bit of a
Vegas is open.
Vegas is open. They will play somewhere. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but it's a conversation that needs to be kept going because if one person dies, one player dies, then it'll be absolute chaos. And I'm not saying that's likely. I'm just saying that applies to all sports.
Well,
that's what the NBA players are saying. We are in the minority groups that are worst affected, and yet you want us to all get together in one place and play these games.
And there's these players are athletes. Their bodies are running at the red line all the time. Well,
like yours?
Moment, but no. Completely opposite end. But, once the season has started, if they aren't careful, they will catch this because they are more susceptible to disease.
Like Novak Djokovic today.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what an idiot. But...
he's an anti-vax guy as well.
Yeah, he is massively
anti. He won't even get a vaccine if there's a vaccine. But he'll quite happily have 6,000 people 4,000 people in watching the tennis. That is a special kind of special. That is.
It's bad when you're there going, well, I agree with Nick Kyrgios.
Okay, moving on from COVID because we've all had enough of that as well. Anybody surprised that Cam Newton still is unsigned and floating around in the atmosphere?
He's just waiting, isn't he?
Do we think he plays first week of the season?
No. First week.
No, me neither, but it seems to be a thing. While we're covering that and back to what we started with as well, there's so much conversation about whether Kaepernick will come back, and we've banned it for the last 2 years on here. Can we say, even if he was right, which he was, he's still not coming back to play in the NFL? It's been 5 years.
I think someone might sign him.
I think he'll get on a team.
He'll be rubbish.
I don't think
it doesn't matter.
He can't be rubbish. He can't be as bad as Peterson or any of the Steelers backups. Like, surely.
Yeah, but he's had 5 years, no games.
Yeah, but he's still fit. He's kept himself fit.
Most of the backups.
It's just throw and catch. We talked about this before.
I think if you're a team with the right system, it's worth bringing him in. Like if you're the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, I know they've got RG3, so it kind of rules them out. If you're the Texans with Deshaun Watson, who gets injured a lot behind a terrible offensive line.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Texans make sense. Or even the Seahawks behind Russell Wilson. Yeah. It's a similar.
Yeah, I agree with you. Didn't they? Or they were going to bring him in for a workout, weren't they? And Pete Carroll's already been talking about Kaepernick. I would not be surprised at all.
Sure.
You could have Antonio Brown and Kaepernick rock up at the Seahawks.
Good Lord. Anti Lynn at the Chargers has been making lots of positive noise about bringing him in as well. They've got Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert.
They've got nothing.
That's what they've got.
They've got absolutely nothing, have they? You know, Herbert, you don't really want to put him in this year, do you? You don't really want Tyrod. I know, Griff, you quite like Tyrod, don't you?
I think he's a serviceable player, but I wouldn't want him as my starter. But I think he's good enough. As backups go, he's probably one of the best 3 or 4 in the league.
Yeah,
Tyrod or Kaepernick?
Right now, Tyrod.
Right now, Tyrod. But then on the flip side,
and with a team that can't sell tickets, would you say Tyrod or Kaepernick?
Kaepernick.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
He will be a media scrum, and teams don't like that. It doesn't matter why, they just don't like it.
But the Chargers have got no fans.
That's true.
They'll get fans, especially in the LA. Like if he's suddenly rocked up on the LA on the Chargers team, I reckon they'll actually get fans. Anyway, the other teams that might sign him are the ones with absolutely no depth at quarterback, and I look specifically at the Steelers. Like Big Ben's coming off an injury. Is he fit? Is he going to stay fit? We saw last year.
Apparently, he's the fittest they've seen in years.
Yeah, well, that's not saying much, is it? and then Griff, your Pats.
Yeah, we could do with a decent backup. Absolutely.
You could do a decent
start.
You've only got backups.
Stidham will start. Stidham will play. That's
what
they're going to go with.
I believe Stidham will start, but like then it's hot. No, you haven't got Hoyer. Is he still there? Yeah,
it's Hoyer.
Yeah, they signed him back, didn't they?
Yeah,
I
think they genuinely seem to believe he is a 16-game starter.
Yeah, and maybe he is. But
and how awesome! You will have to admit how awesome Belichick is if we win 10 games with Stidham.
I mean, it's pretty much nailed on that Belichick is going to the Hall of Fame and is probably one of the top 3 head coaches of all time. Like I think we can all agree that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think he'll be desperate to win a championship without Brady.
If he gets double figures on a team with Stidham and no tight end, then he'll have done phenomenal things. I think it's 8-8 season at best, but they obviously have some faith in him. Yeah. I don't know. I only saw him throw 2 passes last year, and one of those was picked off. So I'm not exactly thrilled. But
did anyone see the picture of Gronk in his new Bucks uniform, which that he'd basically been doing lots of drugs whilst he was in WWE?
Yeah,
allegedly.
It was very upsetting to see the 2 of them in their Bucks uniforms. It's the first time it really hit home, but you know.
Well, Brady needs to be careful because the older generation are more susceptible to COVID, and Florida is wide open. So be careful. Be careful.
It's very, very true. Any other news we'd like to get to? No. I'm gonna say that's a no. Everybody's drawing a blank. What would you like to do first? Would you like your?
I got one more thing. I got one more thing.
Go on.
Carl Shanahan signed a new contract.
Oh yeah, you want to talk
New
about that?
6-year contract for Carl Shanahan. So I'm really happy about that. Gary probably isn't. I wait. You remember 3-4 years ago he signed a 6-year contract, and then then John Lynch obviously got his 6-year contract. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of weeks, John Lynch also gets extended, because I think they've proved to be a good team. They've turned that roster around, and they nearly won a Super Bowl. That's that.
Teams that nearly win Super Bowls.
Yeah,
I've heard about them. What would you like next? Would you like your Don Shula quiz or straight into boom or bust? What would you like to do first?
To the quiz.
Do the quiz. Let's get it out of the way so Gary can wake up again. Right. Because I suspect there's going to be some hardcore cheating because people confessed in advance. We're going to do question and answer straight after each other. We're not going to leave you to look it up. So that's what we're going to go with. Okay?
To be fair, you gave us a heads up and told us to read up on Don Shula. So
yeah, I didn't say have the Wikipedia page open at your disposal. Anyway, ready? 10 questions. Don Shula. The reason for this being Don Shula passed away aged 90 and is the most winningest coach in NFL history and the greatest coach, regardless of what you think of Belichick, who may or may not overtake him at some point. Don Shula pretty much did everything and is the bar, if you like. So I think
certainly put him in the top 10, but
yeah, he sets the bar for what's to be expected. Right. Question 1. Which team first employed Don Shula in the NFL as defensive backfield coach in 1960?
Browns.
No.
The Baltimore Colts.
No. John Farrow.
Wait. No, hang on. It was
That's too late. You've had
no. It was Detroit, but also he was drafted by the Browns in 1951.
That's not what I asked.
True.
Don't go giving away
You
answers.
said in the NFL. That was his first job in the NFL.
First employed as a defensive backfield coach. You didn't listen to all of the questions. You don't have to dive in. I'll come to you. It's fine.
All right.
Nobody got that one right.
Who was it anyway? Detroit.
It was Detroit Lions, yes,
Yeah.
1960. How many wins does Bill Belichick need in order to catch Don Shula's winning record? John.
64.
Gary. Looking it up frantically. Look at his face.
347 minus whatever Bill Belichick has won. So I'm going to go with 34.
Jim?
28.
Sorry, it was 43.
I'm closest, yeah?
Yeah, you were closest, but no
That's
points.
a point.
I'm afraid it's not.
Warm-up.
Don Shula was the youngest head coach in the NFL when he was appointed. Who now holds the record as the youngest head coach?
Sean McVay?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say McVay. Oh, no.
Kingsbury.
Zach Taylor.
Anyone?
Zach Taylor?
I believe it's Sean McVay. Still.
It was still Sean McVay.
It was still Sean McVay. Don't be led into change.
These questions are not about Don Shula.
No, they're not.
Well, no, because you all sat there and went, yeah, we've got Wikipedia open, so I rewrote the quiz. Sod you.
I thought it'd be hilarious to come last.
In Super Bowl III, Shula lost and was defeated by which Jets quarterback? John.
Namath.
Jim.
Namath.
Gary. Point for
Namath.
everybody. Made it nice and easy. Good
I've
stuff.
seen that on America's Game.
Okay, here's another one that you should all get. What feat did Don Shula's Dolphins achieve in 1972? Gary.
Perfect season. 17-0.
John.
Perfect season. Yeah.
Jim.
Perfect season.
Thank you. Did you give me the added detail of 17-0? Well done.
I did, yeah.
I like that. Okay,
they beat the Redskins as well.
We're going with Jim first on this one for no reason other than I can. In which year did Don Shula draft Dan Marino?
1983.
John?
Yeah, 83.
Gary?
1983 with pick number 27.
It was 1983.
Well
done.
Number 27 as well.
Well done. Extra detail.
Well done.
I like that. Living
No
in the past.
point.
Excellent stuff. What
Did you know
name?
that, Jim?
What name did Don Shula give to Bill Belichick? John.
Bill.
Jim.
It was at the christening.
Emperor Palpatine.
Gary.
Bill Winnercheck.
Oh, you're so close. It was Bill Belichick.
Oh,
He called him in an interview, which I quite like.
that's close. I knew it would be something like that. Play on
You
words,
did very
know.
well to get that, but no, he does not have respect for Bill Belichick at all, and said that his teams won with dignity and fairness, unlike the Patriots. who cheat. Yeah, well, that's fine. I think Gary may have given the answer to this one earlier, but that's fine. How many total victories, regular and postseason, did Don Shula achieve? Gary?
347.
Jim?
347.
And John?
347, but it was 328 in the
Regular season.
It was, but 347. Well done, everyone.
That's the one fact I knew.
John, coming to you first on this one. How many Super Bowls did he lose?
3.
Gary?
He won 4, didn't he? So I think 2.
Jim?
He won 2 and lost 4.
He did lose 4, and he did win 2.
I knew he'd been in 6. You fucked that up, John.
Don Shula played in 73 NFL games for Cleveland, Baltimore, and Washington. How many interceptions did he rack up in their backfield? Gary? Stop
3.
looking it up.
3.
John?
5.
Jim?
19.
21. Very close, but he was actually very good.
I just presumed he was shit.
No, he was actually very good.
I thought it was one of them
21
little trick
interceptions.
questions, you know.
By my reckoning, Jim won that with a score of 3. But
I got 3.
I definitely got.
Sorry,
I
Jim won that with a score of 4. I apologise. He got the Super Bowls. Did he lose? So 4 to Jim. Everybody else got 3.
I got another little factoid which impressed me. In
I got the
1953.
Sean McVay one.
So you didn't get some of the other ones. Well, perhaps
Yeah,
my scorekeeping is awful.
I'll let Jim have it. I don't
All
win.
right. How many games in a row did he beat the Bills?
How many games in a row?
Yeah.
Just one. They only played one. So,
16. I don't know.
12.
He beat them 20 in 20 consecutive games from 1970 to 1979.
God.
Wow.
No wonder he's
That
not
is a
great. He
stat.
played one team.
In 1953, he was traded from the Browns to the Colts in a 15-player trade.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Nuts.
That wasn't too painful considering I had to rewrite that before we started. I do quite like Bill Belichick. We should have named the podcast after that.
Definitely.
Right. So, we can now move on from our quiz. Hope everybody else enjoyed that. To a little bit of boom or bust. So, I asked everybody to search through their sort of memory banks and their opinion banks and come up with a player on each team in a particular division that they feel will be boom or bust. Or if you think the team in general will go that way, feel free to do it as you choose. We're starting with the AFC because it's alphabetical. And we will start in the AFC East.
Oh, tits.
Yeah, that's you. So, in any order you like with the teams, and just tell us whether you've gone boom or bust, or you want to go
Are we
both.
frozen?
Or... No,
Nope.
we're good.
Just you.
Just you. We're all good. You look panicked.
Should we start with the Bills?
Why not? Wherever you like. What do you think?
I think they're going to boom. I think they're going to be the strongest team in that division this year.
I agree with you.
Made the playoffs and they were so close. Like Josh Allen lost his head effectively, and that's what took them out. They've added Stephon Diggs. We've not seen much much loss. Their defense is, they've added AJ Epinesa, who I think could be a really, really good addition. So yeah, I'm I think they're going to be the winners of the AFC East. In fact,
You're sold on the Bills.
I'm in on the Bills.
Okay, well, keep going. Who's next up?
The Dolphins suck. Basically, can I have the rest of the teams are busts?
Well, yeah, you can, but you've got to give us a bit more detail than that. Mainly because Gary's still frozen and we haven't got him back. Oh, here he comes.
We've lost Gary.
Hopefully we'll get him back. But there is still, we're Fitzpatrick fans here, aren't we?
Yeah, always.
That's going to be a season without practice. There's 6 new members of the O-line.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like the head coach, but I think they'll be fine in comparison to last year. But still, they're not going to be. The only way they're getting near the playoffs is because the other teams in the division have bad years. And I don't think the other team's going to be that bad.
Yeah, I agree with John. I wasn't wild about their draft either. Okay, Tua Tagovailoa, solid pick. You had to do it.
Yeah.
No problem. Austin Jackson was a good offensive tackle, but I think there were better ones on the ball at that point. I'm not going to try and pronounce the cornerback's name in the first round as well. But again, they were, I think, better players. And I think you'll see a better season from them than last season, but it's still good. I think they're still picking in the top 10 next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think John's hit the nail on the head. The lack of practice time hits a team that have had that many draft picks. And that's unfortunate for them because actually it should be a very talented squad, but it may just be a struggle for them this year. Further information on other teams, John?
You can never count the out because they still have Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
But they also have Jarrett Stidham.
Right.
Who, once again, I know he's been there a year, but he's going to have no practice again as the starting quarterback. And it's just the level of expectation. There's no tight end. The wide receivers still aren't great.
No.
The only thing they haven't lost a huge amount on defense, and they've kept Gilmore. They've given Joe Tunney the franchise tag, which I know he must be absolutely laughing. But yeah, there's no cap space. I think it's a down year.
I agree. Like you look at their wide receivers, and okay, you've got Julian Edelman, and then you've got N'Keal Harry, who could be good, but we don't know yet. And Sanu. There's a lot of.
He's coming off an injury, but he looks good in practice.
That's a lot of number 2 receivers. There's no number 1 there. There's no tight end. And okay, when you're going into season with a rookie quarterback, if it was Tom Brady, I think it'd be different because you've got an experienced quarterback, knows how to win games, knows how to work well with Edelman, had that chemistry. But you got a brand new, not brand new quarterback, but more or less a brand new quarterback, and he's got some very, not spectacular wide receivers. The offensive line wasn't brilliant last year, and you've lost the defensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia. Is that the one?
Dante Scarnecchia.
Yeah, he's gone. If Belichick pulls this off, he is absolutely one of the best.
He's already amazing. Anyway,
but this is his toughest job.
For what it's worth, I might as well dive in because it's my team. It's so nice to hear you guys being down about the Patriots. When normally at this time of the year it's me and you're all telling me how terrible I am at assessing their chances. I'm going to say this. I think the fact that Stidham's been there a year helps and puts us a leg up on the Dolphins, for instance.
Yep, it definitely does.
I think keeping Tunney is absolutely key because the O-line pivots on how he works, and when he's missing, we're not very good. The biggest problem for me is that Sonny Michel might miss the start of the season because he's recovering from foot surgery.
Yeah.
And I honestly think with a newest quarterback, you've got to go through the running back situation. And we may not be able to do that. And the start of the season is when we should be strongest because people won't have much film on Stidham. So if we don't get off to a good start, it could be an awful year. That said, you don't know. The Tom Brady story gives you a little bit of hope that regardless of who the quarterback is, nobody had heard of Jacoby Brissett. Nobody had really seen Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm not as down as I thought I would be. The tight end situation just irritates me. How have we not dealt with that?
Well, you had the opportunity in the draft to deal with that. And even in free agency, there was a couple of tight ends you could have picked up that were serviceable.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. You just look at it on paper and you just go, no.
I think it's what the team needs. I think they need a down year.
Yeah,
to
could be
fresh.
I think it's all part of Belichick's master plan, and he's going to tank this year to pick up an amazing quarterback next year and go back.
You've said that for the last 18 months. You could well be right. Do you? I did wonder whether we might go in for Delaney Walker, who sort of retired from the Titans. I'd have taken him for a year over anybody we've got, and I'm a little bit disappointed not to see him be approached.
And you've seen that do that before as well. I mean, he had Martellus Bennett there for a year. He's kind of had Benjamin Watson there before. He's not abject to kind of picking up veteran.
Hey, Gary's back, everyone.
Gary's back.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I think Delaney Walker would be a lot of money for a bloke who's only going to be there 5 games because he's always injured.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. He's old.
Yeah, so he is old. But
yeah,
it might help teach the younger tight ends a little bit about playing the position because they're all just inexperienced.
That would be useful, but I don't see Bill doing it.
Durability is definitely an issue. Right, you might as well finish off the AFC East with the Jets, who we assume will be terrible because they always are.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to be their biggest problem on the Jets?
I reckon Bell doesn't last the year because he isn't going to want another year of being behind an absolute train wreck of an O-line. He was getting 3 yards a carry last year, and that's just not good enough. I think he'll be gone. He'll be traded by a trade deadline because they brought in Flacco to help Darnold because Darnold does miss games, whether it be by mono or injury. But Flacco's off a neck injury.
Yeah, so Flacco won't be there for the start of the season. They've already said he won't play. He won't be eligible for the first 6 games because he won't have recovered.
Yeah.
So it's an awful situation for the Jets.
And
Sam Darnold has been disappointing though, right? I mean, I know he's playing on a bad team, but he's not been great.
Still young.
He's still really young, and he is playing on a terrible offensive line. And my biggest concern is the lack of wide receivers.
Yeah.
Like they picked up Denzel Mims in the 2nd round, who looks decent. But after that, the next best is Bashar Perriman.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would still take Darnold over Stidham or Hoyer.
Yeah, definitely.
And once again, a lack of practice a load of new wide receivers who aren't elite coming into quite a complicated scheme.
Yes.
Gase has his ways. He's brought in Gore to add some age.
There's at least 2 to 3 yard touchdowns out of Gore next year.
Yeah.
Do we not think that Adam Gase is just so on the hot seat? He could be gone after 4 or 5 games.
Yeah,
you love him.
If they lose the first 4 games of the season, he's done. Surely,
quite possibly. Yeah, if they get to the bye and it's looking really bad, he could be gone then.
And if they haven't got rid of Jamal Adams by the time the season starts, that could be quite a distraction.
That's a train wreck of a situation they're in. I think they just need to get rid of him quickly.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think that team's got anything going for it. It could be the only reason that the Patriots don't finish bottom.
One boom and 3 busts.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, Gary, you're back. While you've still got connection, would you like to do your boom and busts?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research.
Yeah, I bet you did. Is that where you've just been?
And these are what I researched from Jim's mind.
Go on, fire away.
So definitely, I think he is right. So,
Thanks, mate.
Jim said, really, it's all about second place.
Such a dick.
What are you saying, John?
I think he's right.
Right.
Damning with fake pays.
All about second place. Chiefs are obviously going to win that division, aren't they? As long as Mahomes stays fit. Obviously, he is after a new contract now, isn't he? Well, they should be. He's got 2 more years, isn't he? This year and next year. But they'll want to tie him down this year, won't they? So it's whether the media get hold of that and start turning that into a bit of an issue.
I think if you think about the inflation that we see with quarterbacks as well in contract salary, they'd be better off tying them down now to a contract. Like, it'll be cheaper to do it now than it would be in 3 years' time. And I know they're under salary cap issues, but they've got to move heaven and earth to keep Mahomes. They can't let him get to a franchise tag situation.
No, I think, they've got to try and work some magic and negotiate with some big players there, haven't they, the Chiefs?
Yeah.
And I think wide receiver and running back is going to be the area where they choose to move on, like, after every couple of years to try and keep that wage down, and that's what they should do. They can try and keep the lines together with Mahomes, then, that's going to be the best way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've now got a rookie running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who they took in the first round, who's meant to be pretty decent. So that I think, and the system that Andy Reid plays means that you can kind of slot running backs in as when you need to. I don't think it matters about kind of what quality they are. So if he's decent, then that's a decent opportunity for them.
And what's Hardman on a second-year contract now as well? Nicole Hardman, is he on second year or third year?
Yeah, no, this will be his second year. Yeah,
second
so you've got him for at least another 2 years.
That's what I mean. So I think they've got. I think in terms of players that are going to be important this year, I think it'll be really important for him this year because they will have to look at some of their more veteran players and think about how they do move on.
Yeah, you can see. In a few years' time, you could see Tyreek Hill leaving and Nicole Hardman taking on that role.
Yeah, so I think that'll be interesting. Broncos have obviously done quite well. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy and Melvin Gordon added to that offense.
Is Melvin Gordon going to be any good though, Gary?
Well, I think he is still better than the league average. If he's hungry and he wants to be there, I know you like those. The 2 running backs there, don't you?
Well, I thought they were very good. Yeah, as a duo, I thought it was one of the better duos.
You thought he was proper Rolls Royce, didn't you? But he just.
Let's just remember, I didn't select Royce Freeman. He was auto-selected.
To be fair, the year before they did a bit better, didn't they? Last year they weren't anything amazing. No. Melvin Gordon is still a step up from anything they had there at running back, I would say.
Yeah.
They've put some decent wide receivers at the Broncos now. And obviously they think Drew Lock, is actually going to be their guy, don't they? What did he go, like 39 2 years ago?
It was in the second round, but what do you think? Is he actually going to be any good?
I think Drew Lock is going to be okay. I think I had him reasonably high when we did our mock draft, not last year, the year before, whenever it was. So actually, I do think, I think he will be good. I think Drew Lock will be one to watch.
Do we think with the Broncos it's a case of get a quarterback you're okay and happy with and let him have 3 years to play in the position?
I think they need to settle, don't they?
Yeah.
Because that has been they've been trying to find the quarterback to lead the franchise for a while, and I think they may well have settled on Drew Lock for at least 2 years.
Yeah, I think
I really like the Broncos this year. I think we've mentioned the offense, so they've got the wide receivers. Jerry Jeudy and now Cortland Sutton as well. That's a good duo. Noah Fant's a decent tight end, and they've got 2 free running backs that they can cycle in there. But actually, if you look at the defense, you've also got Von Miller.
Bradley Chubb coming back.
Bradley Chubb comes back. They traded for Jarrell Casey, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee, who's older but still bloody decent. They brought in AJ Boye and Kareem Jackson. Now, Boye is a really good cornerback, and Kareem Jackson is decent depth. So I really like this team. I like what they're doing with their team.
Yeah. So that was Jim's thoughts on the Broncos.
Good one.
Chargers. So obviously, I think they're going to have to go with Herbert pretty quickly. I don't think they really want to start with Tyrod. The defense is okay, but they're just a team that flattered to deceive for 2 or 3 years, aren't they? And I've got a feeling that they are just going to be on the wane.
Do you not think with the terrible O-line situation which they still have, bringing in Justin Herbert early he'd just be sacrificial?
Potentially.
He's not a mover like Tyrod, is what I'm getting at.
Tyrod likes to move, does he?
Tyrod's a mover. We know that he is.
He needs to move like Tyrod.
Yeah, he's able to escape the pressure, whereas Herbert is not the same sort of quarterback. He needs to be protected.
Yeah, I don't think Herbert will start the first game of the season. Don't get me wrong. I think Herbert's a good pick. I think Herbert will be a solid quarterback if he's given the right environment to prosper in. But
New England.
There's just not very much going for the Chargers, is there?
Do we all think that they're going to finish bottom of this division this year? Because I do. I think
that's like the Raiders either.
Yeah.
I think that Chargers team is destined for bad things this year.
I think they are destined for bad things. But then I thought the Raiders had a terrible draft.
Okay, tell me about the Raiders. What do we think the problem is?
Defense.
Yeah, well, the defense is terrible. You right there, Jim? You look a bit confused.
Sorry, I was literally just looking at the Raiders roster. I just searched Raiders roster just to have a look through it, and I didn't know they'd signed Jason Witten.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Yeah, it did happen. Yeah.
Well, it's educational.
That kind of shock.
I think Derek Carr's the better quarterback, but I don't think John Gruden agrees with me.
No.
So I think that's a problem because that means he thinks Mariota or
Peterman.
Nate Peterman. So he thinks one of those might be a better quarterback than Derek Carr, which I don't really agree with. I still think if Carr ended up at the Patriots, he'd be a very happy man.
Oh, I'd take him tomorrow.
I think they took the wrong wide receiver, who's now injured his leg after helping his friend move. Jim, do you want to elaborate on that story? Because
that's literally all I know. It seemed a really weird thing that he was helping a friend move and injured his leg. And some reporters were a little bit suspect that that's what really happened.
Yeah, I bet they were. Sounds made up, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I don't think there's been moves through the draft. I don't think there's been any real kind of the AJ Boye trade. Apart from that, there hasn't been any hugely stellar trades gone on in this division. I think it's really about whether anyone can get anywhere near to the Chiefs and potentially get into a wild card. But I think the Broncos will have a better year, but I don't think anyone will come out of this. I think you'll only have one team come out of this division.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. The Broncos.
And Jim didn't even write that down for me.
I did.
That came from the heart.
The Broncos, for me, have got the best chance of being a wild card team out of that lot. I've not been sold on anything the Raiders have done, but I don't think they're the worst team there either. I think they can probably keep up with the Broncos just about. But I think the Chargers will be well off the pace. Phillip Rivers was a problem, but he wasn't the problem. And, signing a quarterback who can't move is not going to help.
They are rebuilding the Chargers, and I think Gary's right. I think Justin Herbert will get decent playing time this year, and they're going to a rebuild year. So
where's Keenan Allen next year? Is he still there, or is he gone now? Keenan Allen's still there.
Yeah, he's still there.
They lost the wide receiver, didn't they?
Tyrell Williams.
Yeah. He went to the Raiders, didn't he? That's right.
Yeah.
For the Raiders, at least they'll have Josh Jacobs back, who, when he went, the season just...
Yeah, they need that. Regardless of which quarterback they go with, they need him at full tilt.
Yeah. But then we've seen teams with moves before as well. That never helps, does it?
No.
It will take some time to settle.
Yeah, it's another good...
Do you know who was good
Zay
for
Jones
them?
in Las Vegas.
That's true. Do you know who was good for them last year, who got no credit, mainly because he's an arsehole? But it was Richie Incognito, was actually really good last year.
Good, yeah.
And I think that does help whichever quarterback plays, and certainly helps Josh Jacobs. So if he can keep that form up again, they've got something, but the defence is terrible. It's just...
I think Richie Incognito helps anybody whose lunch money he doesn't want.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, I don't like to credit
He's
the
a
man with
proper
anything.
old school bully, isn't he?
Yeah, he is,
Just
and he
massive.
shouldn't be credited with too much, but he was very good last year. So,
Yeah.
you know, on a purely sporting note, it was a good signing. It was.
Yeah.
Oh, back to news.
Yeah.
The Chargers are this year's Hard Knocks team.
Are they joint? Isn't it joint? Chargers
space.
and Rams?
Yeah,
Chargers and Rams.
Chargers and
Yeah.
Rams, but yeah, we haven't talked about the Rams. So yeah,
Well, that's true. Tell me more about this. How this joint thing is going to work, because I've not seen anything about it.
well, imagine they'll be filmed and then someone will put it together and they'll put it on TV.
Do you not think it'll just be the weirdest thing? Because what are they going to do? Film it from inside a
Well,
bus?
they've already merged the logo, so
Yeah.
just merging
Honestly.
There's a matter of time between it until they merge the team and set up another franchise.
one of those
somewhere.
teams that is going to be an LA
Yeah.
team, and there's going to be another franchise somewhere else.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think
It's
so.
all starting to happen. Within 3 years, the Chargers won't exist.
It cannot sustain two teams there. It can barely sustain one. I think you might find that San Diego gets its team back because they desperately want their team back, and that might well happen.
A team, a city of such sporting history, it's bizarre they don't have a team.
Yeah, I think that they might be able to persuade the
Do you
NFL.
reckon they go back to the Superchargers?
I hope so.
I hope so.
They should, just for the
Let's
song.
hear that song again.
Jim, you must have had the North.
I did have the North, and much like Gary's AFC West, I also think this is a battle as to who comes second, because I think the Ravens are going to win this division. I think it's a question of how do you stop Lamar Jackson. I think he's got. I hope he's got another good year, because he was spectacular last year and it's good fun to watch. So I think he's got another good year. But my boom player from the Ravens, I'm looking forward to seeing J.K. Dobbins, the running back who they selected, I think in the second round of the draft. So obviously Mark Ingram's getting a bit older. I think he's still going to play a part. I think J.K. Dobbins could be a really strong asset for them. I'd like to see them have a few more wide receivers, but they don't really need. They're not going to throw the ball anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Bengals are picking in the top 10 again next year. I think Joe Burrow will be fine. Really like T. Higgins, the wide receiver they picked up. But this is a roster that's rebuilding. Zach Taylor needs experience. The quarterback needs experience. The offensive line is going to be pretty much all new players, or at least kind of very inexperienced players. Jonah Williams, a first-round pick from last year, comes back. So, you know, they've essentially got two first-rounders who are going to be starting the year. So, yeah, they're picking top 5, maybe top 10 if they're lucky. Browns, it's all about whether, you know, Baker Mayfield melds with Freddie Kitchens. This is now his 4th head coach, if you class Greg Williams, who was the interim head coach when Hugh Jackson got fired. And we've said it before after the draft, this year is a make or break year for Baker, because he's now got the offensive line in front of him. They took Mekhi Becton, didn't they, in the first round?
Yeah.
So they've now got that left tackle. They brought in the right tackle from the Titans as well. So that's a decent offensive line, and it's all on paper. This team still looks superb. You look at all those big names, and you're like, how are they going to lose? I think Nick Chubb will have another fantastic year, alongside Kareem Hunt.
Austin Hooper.
Yeah, Austin Hooper is there, who is, you know, was quietly one of the better tight ends in the league last year. Like, he didn't get the plaudits that kind of Kelsey or Kittle got, but
tight end's been a problem for them. The Count's been okay, hasn't he? But he's not consistent.
No, and I think Njoku it will benefit him to have a veteran tight end there to learn from. And let's face it, if you go 2 tight ends with Njoku and Hooper, and you've got Landry and Beckham, and then Nick Chubb or Kareem Jackson or Kareem Hunt behind you, then how do you not win? Steelers, it's all about Big Ben. Is he fit? If he gets injured, the season's over. Can Juju be a number 1 wide receiver? I don't think he's really made that step up, but it's not fair to kind of judge him from last year because he is playing with absolute dross at the quarterback. And similar with James Conner, can he step up to be a proper number 1 running back? He was brilliant the year before last, but last year he was, again, pretty average at best, and that defense needs to carry on what they're doing last year. So yeah, that's the AFC North.
All right. Well, thank you.
Concise.
Who do you think is finishing bottom of that division? Who's definitely bottom?
Bengals are definitely
Bengals.
I do think if the Browns get that together and the Steelers keep Big Ben fit, I think two teams could come out of the AFC East, North.
Do we think Big Ben will actually be any good? He's had a year off and no practice.
He'll be Ben. He'll
Yeah.
get you 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in one game,
and throw
100 yards and 5 interceptions in another. You know,
I just don't think it's guaranteed that he's as good as he was before.
It's not. Well, I mean, I was surprised they didn't bring in and either draft high a quarterback or bring in one of the free agent quarterbacks that are out there for them to take. Really, look, Mason Rudolph was pretty bad. That's been nice, and Duck Hodges hasn't even got a real name.
Did you know as well? I don't know if it's the same this year, but last year the Browns had the second youngest squad in the NFL.
Yeah.
So that is. I know we look at all the great players and stuff like that, but there is still a lot of people that are a lot of players that are 2 or 3 years into their NFL career. Within a couple of years, whoever's going to be leading that team in 2 years could be sitting on some real talent if they can afford to keep them.
Yeah, they still. I don't know how they've done it. They've still got quite a bit of salary cap. So I know they need to sign Myles Garrett to a long-term deal. I think he's going to. We said it about George Kittle setting the market. I think Myles Garrett is setting the market for defensive ends. So they're going to pay him loads, and that defense just looks good again. Like they've got that skill on both sides of the ball. And yeah, Gary, you're right. There are a young team, but if you look at the key positions, they've got experience there at wide receiver. They've got experience in the offensive line now, and generally a good defense.
Yeah, the Browns have still got the most cap space in the league.
Yeah, I don't know how.
37 million.
Fine.
they brought in Claiborne, haven't they? Who's a winner, which they haven't had many winners in that team. So that is really helpful.
To be fair, you look around some of their star players and you say, well, they weren't really winners, were they? I mean, Beckham, Giants,
Landry,
Dolphins.
Yeah.
So, but at least they've got experience to be able to kind of say what it does take to win, even if they haven't done it before.
All right, and that just leaves me with the AFC South because Paul couldn't be bothered to be here. So I'll do my best to run through this. I'll start with what I think is potentially the worst team in football this year, which are the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, definitely.
Are going to have, at best, a 4-12 season. At absolute best. There is nothing on the offense to make you think that they can be any good. Bearing in mind, they're going to go with John's favourite quarterback, Gardner Minshew, who isn't terrible, but isn't able to elevate anybody.
He is.
He's just a backup. That's what
John
he is.
hates him, but tries to look like him. I love that.
I was looking at the quarterback depth when we were chatting about Kaepernick, seeing if he'd be a fit there. And he would be because he'd just be better than all their quarterbacks. They've got Josh Dobbs, Gardner Minshew, Mike Glennon.
How is he still employed?
I don't know.
It's incredible. Yeah, if Minshew doesn't work, the fourth quarterback on the roster is called Jake Luton. Ever heard of him? No, of course you haven't.
No.
Honestly, they've got nothing. When you add in the fact that their best running back doesn't want to be there, they don't really want him. It's just they daren't get rid of him because he's their only good player. That's just a recipe for disaster. Fournette, I think it's a bit like the Bell situation. I don't think he'll be there come the trade deadline because nobody is interested in that going on, are they?
He doesn't want to be there either.
No. The only thing is, I don't think there'll be that good a market for him because I think people have cottoned on to the fact he's lazy.
Injury prone as well.
Yeah, who wants an expensive, lazy running back? No one.
No one really.
At least
the Colts.
They've got plenty. We'll get into them. We'll get into them in a second. Well, maybe. On the only upside I could find for the Jags is, you remember how terrible Jay Gruden's been as a head coach at the Redskins? But do you remember how good he was as an offensive coordinator before he went to the Redskins?
Yeah.
So if he can tap into that and get Minshew work a way around the Fournette problem, if he can juggle the pieces, get the ball to DJ Shark, and Keelan Cole, maybe he's the breath of fresh air they need. For me, the biggest mistake they made was not getting rid of Doug Marone, and that's just going to be a hangover from the last 2 years where they've not been anything.
Yeah.
I think this team's in trouble.
Yeah.
And if your best hope is Jay Gruden, you're a bust, as far as I'm concerned. But that's what I think. Moving on to the Colts, who I think...
Has Ngakwe signed a tag?
No.
Okay.
He's refusing. He will go, I think, because...
Yeah, he doesn't want to be there, does he?
No, and you can't blame him. The problem is a lot of their defence have still got some good players. They've still got Miles Jack, etc., but none of them want to be there. None of them really are interested or committed to the team. So, despite the fact the defence shouldn't be terrible, it won't be any good either. So, that's not going to be enough to offset a really bad offense, is it? Like I was saying, the Colts have gambled on bringing in Philip Rivers, which for me is a massive bust because whilst he wasn't at fault for everything at the Chargers, he's also not able to move.
Yeah, but I think the Colts have got the best defensive line in football at the moment.
Yeah, they do.
I think he's still going to throw anywhere. I think Brady should have gone there, really.
He's still going to throw 20 plus interceptions this season.
Probably, yeah.
Because he still thinks he can wing the ball out. He still thinks he can wing the ball out like he did 10 years ago.
Yeah, if he can't do it there, he can't do it anywhere. And
he should have retired. I like Philip Rivers. I've not been down on him particularly ever, but I think it's not like Brady. Brady, you can pretty much say, I want to go here because I'm great and this is what I want to do. Philip Rivers, you're not in that tier. You should just say, thanks very much. I've earned my money. I've got 54 kids to feed. I'm off. And he hasn't. And just for me, it's a backward step. I don't think it'll be any better than Brissett.
If we're all wrong about Philip Rivers and he does turn out to be amazing or at least serviceable, really love this Colts squad.
Yeah. So on the upside, the signing of DeForest Buckner is brilliant for them. Like the pressure that he's going to let them put on is going to be amazing. So the defense will be excellent, I think, this year. And also on the offense, Philip Rivers likes to play with the tight end. This could be a real boom season for Jack Doyle again. I love that I managed to get there in there. I think Jack Doyle could be the key offensive piece because if he and Rivers can get something going, well, that's it. But if those two can form some sort of relationship, then you can see them taking big chunks out of the yardage, just the two of them. And then it's just a case of running the ball in with Marlon Mack, who I think has been undervalued as a running back.
Yeah. And the other
Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack has been decent. Chris, right. But the other addition they made at running back was Jonathan Taylor in the draft, who was brilliant in college. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a guessing game with the Colts. I just think Rivers is not an upgrade. For me, he's not an upgrade on what they had last year. So it'll come down to what the rest.
If they had Andrew Luck in that team.
Oh God, if they had Andrew Luck, that'd be an amazing team.
They'd be winning every week, no problem.
They've still got Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah, they've still kept him.
Retired, has he? Yeah.
No, and I don't know. We've seen new kickers come in and be terrible. I mean, I just don't think anybody, especially with no practice now, I don't think anybody knows which kickers to pick because it doesn't seem to matter where you draft them, whether they're high or low. They just randomly can fall off for no reason at all. So what was the name of the guy last year who got traded this time last offseason from the Ravens to
the Norwegian?
Yeah, the Norwegian fellow. And then he just disappeared after like 2 games.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, all right, Vinatieri had a bad year, but out of a 20-odd year career, 1 bad year, at least give him 6 games and see.
I mean, he's definitely going to the Hall, isn't he? I mean, he's one of the best placed kickers ever.
Yeah, and if he's managed to work on whatever the problem is, maybe he can do it. And if not, well, after 6 games, you should have your answer. But right now, with no practice ability, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'll stick with what you know, right? The Titans, everybody's surprise team of last year and a bit of a fairy tale. I think they can do it again. I really do. I think Tannehill has been an excellent upgrade. Derrick Henry will be really good again because I don't think they wore him out. I don't think they overplayed him. He was just really good when they used him. And
he wasn't great in the playoffs, though, was he?
No, but I think the team was inexperienced in the playoffs and didn't really get the best out of themselves as a whole. And I also think Jonnu Smith will be a big upgrade as a regular contributor every week over the will he play, won't he play, who's going to be at tight end last year. It was a bit of a mismatch depending on what they were doing. So, yeah, for me, Tannehill, Smith and Henry on the offense makes this a really viable team. Their biggest bust of last year was Adam Humphries. Remember how much teams were willing to give up for him? I think they will give him one more year to show, and I think he will still be a bust because I don't think he has Tannehill's trust, and I don't think the coaching staff know what to do with him. I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried to move on from him.
Classic ex-Patriots player who is good at Patriots and then just terrible everywhere else.
Well, was he at the Patriots?
Wasn't he?
No. You're just assuming he was because he's a white.
He turned them down.
He turned us down because he's a white wide receiver. You're assuming he played for us, but he's not. That isn't what happened. The defense will still be very good.
Yeah.
And Mike Vrabel is one of my favourite coaches in the league. I think this team is just waiting to see what happens with the Texans, really, to see who finishes top of this division.
Are you thinking of Hogan, Jim?
Yes, thank you.
Chris Hogan, yeah. The rich man's Adam Humphries.
Humphries was the Vikings, wasn't he?
Bucks.
Yeah. Bucks, yes.
Oh,
You're thinking of Thielen. Christ, we've gone through all the white wide receivers. Well done us. So the Texans, this is where it falls for me. I think this team is going to have a down year.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins is going to seal Bill O'Brien's fate, and he will be out of this team at some point in the season. Because if they finish anything worse than 9-7, then he's done. Because you cannot justify getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Who is going to be their new number one wide receiver?
Fuller?
Brandon
Not
Cook.
Fuller. Fuller only averages 6 games a season. Keith Cook only averages 7. It's going to be Kenny Stills. Now, Kenny Stills is playing a lot of games. He's averaging 15 games a season. However,
he was injured a fair bit last season, wasn't he?
He only missed 3 games.
No.
But he's Kenny Stills. He's not DeAndre Hopkins.
Haven't they bought him? Yeah.
Randall Cobb.
Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb.
Brandon Cooks, we know is going to be concussed. Ask Gary. He'll be knocked out in game 1. And Randall Cobb is not the player he was 5 years ago, because who is?
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that they have supplanted DeAndre Hopkins.
Randall Cobb hasn't been the player he was 5 years ago for the last 4 years.
No, well, absolutely. I agree. So, I think on the offensive side of the ball, do you know, who did they bring in at running back?
David Johnson.
Will he be any good?
No.
No, he will not.
Offensive line's always been their problem. They brought in Larry Tunsil, and that's one piece, and it helped. But they
haven't done anything else with it.
Loss. Yeah, no, they gave away all their trade capital to get Larry Tunsil, and then gave away a bit more to get David Johnson. You're like,
yeah.
Well, they let Carlos Hyde go, and he had a really good season.
Yeah.
So it's Duke Johnson and David Johnson. That's it. There's going to be nothing there on offense. Watson's going to be asked to do it all on his own, and I think he's an injury candidate this year because I think he'll be overplaying. He's going to try and keep up with Lamar and Mahomes, and I think he's just going to get crumbled. And when that happens, the backup quarterback is AJ McCarron.
No, it's not. It's Colin Kaepernick.
Well, or it's Colin Kaepernick, in which case maybe they win one more game than AJ McCarron would. But it's not good. I really want to see Kenny Stills come good, but I just don't see how he's big enough to fill the gap that they've left. Bill O'Brien's let this team down for me, and I think the Titans win the division.
Who finishes bottom? Jaguars?
Oh, by a mile, probably. They're
I think
going to be
Colts
awful.
win that division.
You think the Colts win that division? You're going to be cheering for Phillip Rivers this year?
No, not cheering. I just think, despite Phillip Rivers, I think they win the division.
They have the best squad by a mile, but I'm just not sold on Rivers. But yeah, the Jags will finish bottom. They're going to be the worst team in football, which isn't unusual for them. So they're going to be very poor.
Well, they've not. I don't think they've had the number 1 pick very often. They've been kind of top 5 a fair bit, but I don't know. Maybe they get the number 1 pick and they can take either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields.
Yeah, and that's what they need to do, but they need so much more. Several teams here have got coaches that have gone past their best, and the Texans and the Jags are 2 of them. Doug Marrone should have gone, and Bill O'Brien, his winning record is not bad. It's .65 or whatever. But do you ever feel like they're going to win a playoff game? ever.
I think they've wasted Deshaun Watson's rookie contract. They could have built around him.
And they've wasted DeAndre
what?
Hopkins
Yeah.
and JJ Watt.
JJ Watt.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that ship has now failed.
This is his 7th year in charge, and they don't look like threatening for a championship game.
No, it's not a good squad. Like, I mean, there were 1 or 2 players who stand out. Watson, JJ Watt. And yeah, Larry Tunsil's a good player. But there's not a lot else, is there?
Not really. I just
going through their roster, and it's like Bradley Roby, average. And I struggle. Vernon Hargreaves is another average player at best.
Yeah.
The rest of them, Darren Fells at tight end has like 1 game in 10 where he's decent.
Yeah.
Do you remember how bad their secondary and the backfield was against the Chiefs?
Yeah.
When they took they were miles out ahead, and they just Mahomes just threw the ball over them.
Yeah.
And they've done nothing.
No. I just think this team could struggle. I think Titans and Colts, they're going to push it, and the other two are going to be behind this year. And it's a shame for Watson. Watson's one of my favourite players to watch.
Yeah.
He's lumbered with a poor coach or a coach who can't get on with his team.
He's a good coach. He's a bad general manager.
Yes. Yeah, you're quite right. That's the best way to put it. And I think that like you say, wastes Watson's rookie contract. Anybody got anything else to say on our boom or bust for this week?
Nope.
Good shaking heads on a podcast. I like it. No, okay.
No. Done.
We haven't had this discussion, but I assume we're coming back next week to do the NFC.
Yeah,
I would assume so.
That's because we can't just do half of it. So, in which case, I shall conclude this podcast right here.
Can I just farewell? I've just remembered some news.
You've remembered more news?
Aldrich Rosas, the Giants kicker, he's got done for DUI.
Being a dick. Yeah.
Yeah. So the rumours are now they're looking at Gostkowski to replace him.
Oh, really? That'd be a great signing. It shouldn't even be a rumour.
Hang on, ex-Patriots going to the team where they've hired the Patriots special teams coordinator.
Yep.
Done deal.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if that's right. I mean, didn't Rosas end up being like walking drunk up the hard shoulder of the road? He was like wandering about in his t-shirt and pants or something.
As drink drive offences go, it's a bad one.
No, it's not as good as the Welsh Rugby Union team who they got stopped driving a golf buggy down the M6 or the M4, didn't they?
Remember that?
Hey, sometimes these things happen. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were talking about a coup that was supposed to be happening in an island off the African coast, but the guys who were going to stage it got drunk on the plane on the way there and left their guns in the airport.
That's true.
I was like, oh, well done, guys. Well done, you. So there you go. We're not all as daft as them. But I shall bid everyone farewell and speak to you next week. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.